What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Darian Jones of Honor Kings and Sons TV podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate everybody who tunes into my podcast. Every Tuesday, I'm dropping an episode at 6 a.m. in the morning. So I appreciate those who are always making themselves available to hear what I have to say and hear what I have to talk about. If you are new to the podcast, please make sure that you are following me on all social media platforms. So if you just type in Honor Kings and Sons, you can find me on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. You can find me on Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. I'm on all those different platforms. If you just type in Honor Kings and Sons, please make sure that at the end of my episode that you would be so kind as to join my Discord. I really want to be able to create a community where we can expound on all the different subject matter. Sometimes what I might say in the little bit of time, you might have questions and you want to be able to connect with me and be able to have a conversation, and I want to make myself available for you. So make sure that you're downloading all my links and you are joining my Discord. I have two YouTube channels, so please make sure that you subscribe. My first YouTube channel is at Honor Kings and Sons TV. That's where all my audio podcast clips are uploaded. And you also follow me on my entertainment YouTube at djoneshks. I like to put different funny videos, different topics and things that I'm checking out, and give my perspective on them. And it's a page, just to be uplifting and positive to my followers. So definitely make sure that you subscribe to that YouTube channel as well. So today we are going to be talking about relationships. And let me tell you something, in the last, I would say 5 or 10 years, social media has really, put a stronger dent in a lot of the false information, a lot of just the debauchery. So many different things have just been thrown into the airways when it comes to relationships. And a lot of people are involving themselves in relationships and marriages that are not healthy from the jump. You hear the word toxic. That word has been thrown around since, I would say, 2020. That's when you start to hear it a lot, especially with the social media trends happening. Everybody's calling everything toxic. If a person looks at you different, they're being toxic. If a person's being persistent, they're being toxic. And of course you have the people that, they do come with bad tendencies, bad moods, bad behaviors, bad habits, and over a period of time, it's causing a decline in your health and your ability to grow as an individual. But, we just have to be able to discern and separate the two. So Honor Kings and Sons TV, this is a platform. It's a faith-based platform where we come in and we talk about these things from a biblical perspective, a biblical worldview. But we want to be able to put it in a way that you can understand and help you build up as an individual and help you be who you were created to be, so that you can find your kingdom and you can rule it and dominate in it. So, and when it comes to relationships, obviously relationships are the basis of how we connect with one another. But today I want to talk about, of course, relationships in the form of dating, romance, marriage, things like that, and what we're seeing out today. I have coined it, this term. Maybe somebody else did before me, but I haven't really heard anybody saying it. So I believe that this is the season where we're experiencing what I like to call the gender wars, where it's this all out brawl against, gender. So you have the males going against the females. And I feel like, it's tied into a lot of other agendas. If you go check my podcast, previous episode, when I talked about the LGBTQ agenda, I dabble into it, where I feel like there's just a lot of things happening where males are being put against females, and it's starting to create very unhealthy relationships. And in the particularly Gen Z and millennial crowd, I've just seen just so much so much, harsh behavior towards one another. And it's really getting sad, because when you really just stop and you really understand how life is set up, if we get to the point where we don't want to come together and we don't want to further life itself, then there will be a stop to all that exists in terms of the human race. So we cannot continue in the path that we are and think that technology is going to make up for that. And that's a whole nother conversation, because then when you start talking about that, you get into the whole thing with surrogates and artificial insemination, and now you got the rise of AI. So I don't want to get too crazy into that stuff yet, but it's a possibility that before we know it, this is going to be a normal conversation that people are going to have, and it's going to be a normal set of actions that people are going to take, because they are afraid of dealing with the opposite sex. So where can I start? How simple can I make the basis of this conversation? Well, the first thing I want to get out the door is that this is attacking everywhere. Any male and any female who belongs to a social society and is mingling within their age group, and within society, and meeting different people every single day. It's going after everybody. This isn't a black thing. This isn't a brown thing, a white thing, Asian thing, Cambodian, Hawaiian, Southeast Europe thing. This is everybody. Unfortunately, in the urban community, you hear about this on thousands of, if I'm pretty sure thousands of podcasts. People are, going crazy with this now, and it's very simple things like what is a man, what defines a man, and what defines a woman. And here's the crazy part is that I've been paying attention to the answers that you would get from within the black community, the brown community, the white community, things like that, even overseas, and the answers somewhat are the same, and the answers are somewhat different. It just depends on who is facilitating the conversation. So one of the things that a lot of people are pointing out is the fact that a lot of these individuals who are commenting on what is a man and what is a woman, when you listen to their answer and then they are, I won't say interrogated, but they're questioned about, the origin of their family bloodline, the household that they were raised in, you quickly start to realize that they are creating answers based off of trauma. They are creating answers based off of damaged households. The father probably wasn't present. There are households where the mother is not present. Maybe there was unfortunate incidents that took place. Heinous crimes by relatives and friends that damaged that specific individual. And as they have grown up, and they're looking for somebody to try to share affection with. They're looking for somebody to communicate on a romantic level, but they find themselves connecting with mixed and weird and just other confused individuals, or damaged individuals, hurt individuals, and what they have to say about love is just as confusing as the situation that they're in, as well as the partner that they happen to be with at that time. This is not even a heterosexual thing. It's a sexual thing. Period. It's a sexual orientation thing that's happening. My stance, though, is I stand. I'm a heterosexual myself. I'm married. I have my beautiful family, my beautiful wife. But when I hear because I'm starting off in the heterosexual arena. First, when I hear in the heterosexual arena, it frightens me more and more every single day. What people are saying. So some things that people are saying is, a man is supposed to do everything. So if we were to start with the men, A lot of women believe that a man is supposed to do everything, and a woman should be able to choose what she gets to do. Right. So that's one of the things that you hear. What I put an argument on it. I mean, obviously, it's a war, right? So everybody is firing shots. So I guess I'll fire my shots, right? And so, one thing that we have to understand is that we have to understand responsibility. We have to understand roles. You know, unfortunately, we do live in a fallen world where there are a lot of bias. There are a lot of behaviors that they're so prevalent in society that people, will think them to be true simply because they're happening everywhere. I'll never forget when I learned in college about the tool of desensitization, right? If you put something in front of somebody long enough and you tell them something that is not true about that thing, if you keep it in front of them long enough, they will start to agree with you. I remember the famous experiment, and pretty much most people have probably had this exercise done with some form of school instructor, where they tell you, look at the sky, and everybody's like, the sky is blue, right? But the teacher says, no, the sky is purple. The whole class goes, no, the sky is blue. He's like, no, look again, the sky is purple, right? And he does it long enough. I had a teacher that did it for an entire school year. And literally by summer, I was one of those students like, well, technically there are a lot of shades, in the color spectrum. Maybe this blue is a shade of purple that I'm having a hard time seeing its blend, right? So this is what we've been seeing in society, and it's a tool that's been happening for so long. It's foolproof at this point. And so that's what's happening in relationships, right? So if a woman makes a statement and says that a man is supposed to do everything, so we have to understand something, right? And this is a two-part answer. If you give a person full responsibility, right? You give a person full jurisdiction. You give a person full autonomy, full authority, right? You have to understand that once you have signed that over, you now have to be subject to that person that you've put in charge, because you just signed over everything. Once you start talking like that, that's when the women want to argue, well, I don't really mean it like that. I just mean like he just needs to make sure the bills are paid. He needs to make sure that intimately, I'm satisfied. If we have kids, the kids are taken care of. And there should be enough money where I choose if I want to work. And it's like, hold on, wait a minute. I don't know what you learned in school when it comes to responsibility and authority and things like that. But once you put such a load like that on an individual, you have given that individual a position that they can command X, Y, and Z. And also, if you are putting that responsibility on that individual has more bargaining chips than you do. This is the argument that most women then say, oh, there are a lot of men that this is their responsibility, but they can't fulfill it, so I, as the woman, have to step in. Say, okay, so you're saying that you are taking the responsibility. Okay, that's fine. Here's the problem. We have to understand that there's a difference between roles and responsibility. I tell people this all the time. A role is something that can change. How many of us have been to a job and what they say, you're entry level. Then they see you, they work, they say, you know what, we're going to put you in a different role. We'll feel like you'll excel even more here, right? Sometimes you get put in a role because you're not good in the one that you are at right now, or sometimes you're put in a role because you're super good. They want to see how much they can stretch you. So a lot of times people don't take time in their relationships, all right, especially depending on how the relationship is defined. They don't take time to figure out who's good at what. And so when it comes to making decisions and completing tasks that are a bit significant in order to keep everything stable and going down a positive road, that was not done. The work on that part was not done. And then it becomes a trust issue, which is what happens. Because if you're at a job, we'll use a job example because everybody's had a job before, so that makes better sense. So anytime there's an issue about a role, right? The boss doesn't necessarily want to fire you before the boss wants to figure out if they can trust you or not, right? You have some bosses, and I think we all can attest to this. Everybody listening in, you will have a boss that won't fire you, but but they don't trust you with anything. So they're letting you keep your job, but they're going to make sure that whatever task they give you, it is not something that is going to jeopardize the entire staff or the entire company or the entire operation, simply because they don't trust you, right? And remember, you technically, I mean, of course, this is the world we live in. You can fire somebody for if you don't like them or for whatever reason, right? People get fired for many different reasons these days, right? So, your manager, your supervisor doesn't have to necessarily like you, right? But they'll say, you know what, whatever. I'll let him keep that little position, and we ain't gonna go no further with him. So that's kind of what we have going on in relationships. Nobody has taken the time to say, hey, what you're good at, what you're not good at. And we find ourselves fighting for roles. But nobody is gearing up for the responsibility. Here's the thing about responsibility. If you take responsibility for something, you got to take everything that comes with it. Because a lot of women, right, based on what it is that they want out of life, right, they will go and get themselves involved with a man. And if that man is not living up to the responsibility, or how she sort of quote unquote saw it to be, then she's like, oh, you know what, all right, what happens? I can't trust him. So then she takes the role, or she takes the responsibility. But what happens is when the responsibility gets too much, she wants to play the game of let's switch roles again. This is where a lot of women are getting themselves caught up in dangerous situations, because you have to know the difference between a role and a responsibility in a relationship. And that's really what has been the basis of a lot of arguments on social media, when you hear about marriages, especially with Gen Z. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many relationship podcast episodes I've seen, relationship guru seminar videos I've seen on YouTube. I'm faith-based, I'm Christian. I've been to marriage conferences. I've been to, people who are courting, and you're listening to the counseling sessions. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is wild and crazy what people are saying, how you should go about structuring relationships. And it's like, it starts from understanding that you need to know the difference between a role and a responsibility. If you say you're going to take responsibility for something, You have to take the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything, because you're making it your responsibility. Most women, when they take responsibility for something, right, whatever little energy or whatever visual they got in their head, whatever they envision, whatever fantasy it is that they have for their personal life, and from their viewpoint of selfishness, they're going to do that responsibility all the way until it gets them what they want. The minute it doesn't get them what they want to switch back from responsibility to role. And that is a problem. So now the question becomes, how should people go about picking and choosing somebody that they want to be in a relationship with, right? How do you go about picking and choosing the right person, right? And of course, me identifying as Christian, for those of you who don't know, the Christian faith, there are some differences on this topic, but the Christian faith, for the most part, believes that God has created somebody specifically for you, right? And that person could be in your hometown. That person can be in your classroom. That person can be down the street from you. That person can be a million miles away, right? Across the globe. But some way, somehow, God is going to make it that you meet that person. So this is a thing that many believers believe. I will be honest with you up front. I used to believe that when I was younger, when I didn't know a lot of things and I didn't understand relationships in that way, and I was an immature person, even though I was in the faith. So now I believe that there's two things that a person, male or female, there's two things that they should be operating from and looking for when they decide that they're going to find somebody that they want to start a relationship with, and this relationship leads to them getting married, and this marriage leads to them fulfilling their call and purpose, building a legacy, and raising up, holy and righteous children, and children who will, believe in God and serve God, right? So, number one is your character, right? Which then stems from, of course, your faith, right? So, your godly character, this is something that you are responsible for and you have to work on daily. There isn't a one zap tap where you decide that you want to become a Christian and you feel holy, and the Bible says you're not holy, and then you walking around like you don't make mistakes, right? That's not what we talk about. Your godly character has to be developed, right? And then the second thing is you have to do personal development, personal growth, self-evaluation, right? Study your family history, right? Anybody who follows Honor Kings and Sons TV, I'm always talking about history, because history is everything. If you don't know where you come from, it's going to be hard for you to know where you can go and where you are going. So back to this, you got to know about yourself. You got to know the history of your family, your mother, your father, their mother and father. Like the all the different things. You have to know these things so that you can kind of have a strong idea of where your habits come from, right? Where your esteem comes from, your strengths, your weaknesses, your tendencies. All of these things come from, so that when you meet somebody, it's not that you're hiding it from them, but you structure yourself so that you can be honest with the person, be thorough with the person, and then if the person says, you know what, you are somebody I can build with, despite this here and this there, we can work on that. We can cultivate something beautiful together that allows us to work through our imperfections, right? So those are the two things: your godly character and your personal development, your self-evaluation. Those things are what you should be operating from. Now, most people might be like, well, okay, I'm not a Christian, but I do believe in keeping it real, and I do believe in having some type of character, integrity, dignity. Okay, cool, fine, we can roll with that. But some people don't have the personal development side. They don't know how to self-evaluate. They don't know how to check themselves, right? And so what happens, this is where we come into the world that we live in. A bunch of people who are getting together for the thrill of it, cuz we I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's not a secret. Many people, sexual pleasure and all of that stuff. A lot of people see that as straight up sport. I'm talking about Hunger Games out here, right? We got some people, let's just keep it real. We got some people out here, that stuff is sport for them. So we also have people that, they have so much trauma, low self-esteem from hurt, from pain, or it runs in the family, and they take that into every relationship, and they mess themselves up, even more, and they mess the other person up even more, and it's just being passed around. It's like this disease that the world has never wanted to address, and so here we are. So back to talking about roles and responsibilities, right? In 2024, today, Gen Z, millennials, a lot of these individuals in this generation, they are trying so hard to create this rubric, create this decorum, create this new set of standards for the person that they want to be with, and they don't understand that any standard that you create has to be tested, right? I'm very particular when I, reference like anything from the Bible. I try to say it in a way where people can understand how I want to be able to um, share it in a natural way, and not try to make it feel like I'm trying to be a preacher or something. But there's a scripture in the Bible that says, wherever the kingdom of darkness tries to rise, the Spirit of the Lord lifts up a standard, right? So it's very simple. It's anything that you try to establish that's going to have some longevity has to be tested, right? So you might get with a person, and trust me, it's flip flop. See, it's you see these clips and these episodes and these talks, and a lot of times it's the man getting drilled, if when it comes to finances and all that stuff. But sometimes it's flip flop. Sometimes the woman is the one that she comes with some problems, and she causes a bit of a ruckus where things are not stable, for the relationship or the marriage and stuff like that. It has nothing to do with gender, ladies and gentlemen. It never has had anything to do with gender. It has everything to do with responsibility and roles, right? And understanding that. When we get into the higher part, which is authority, now we kind of can throw gender in there. And like I said, I'm going to do this piece by piece, but we're gonna slow it down and keep it steady. So here's the thing, right? You if you're male or female and you decide that you want to get into a relationship, you have to get yourself ready. When you decide that you are going to come together with somebody, you have to understand that it's more than just getting together with them, sharing emotions, sharing feelings, sharing memories. It's a design. It was a original intent for male and female to come together, to reproduce and continue on legacy. It was structured. It was designed. I mean, guys, plain and simple. That's how all of us who are listening are here. Because our parents, followed that design. So you have to understand that because there is opposition against that. There's spiritual opposition, social opposition, government opposition, racial opposition. Opposition of all sorts is going to come at what you are doing. It has to be tested. And it doesn't matter who some of the strongest tests are going to hit. It can hit the man, it can hit the woman. As a matter of fact, we can even point out some of those tests. Like I say, who is the quickest on their feet, when something goes wrong financially? Who is the quickest on their feet when something is broken in the house? Who is the quickest on their feet when there's a social issue that took place, or civil matter that happened between you and friends? Who is the better mediator? Who is the person that's better to speak, right? Let's say there was a situation where you guys are separated and somebody tries to make a pass on you, right? You about, somebody tries to make a pass on you, right? Who is the person that is sensible enough to, ask questions? What was the situation about? How did it come about? Did you feel like, it was difficult for you to get out of that situation? These are some things that a lot of people don't talk about. You have people that they are weak. And when I say weak, meaning that when it comes to being the a lot of characteristics about them have not been developed. So because a lot of characteristics about them have not been developed, right? It's easy for them to be swayed. They're gullible, right? They have not lived a life where they had to stand up for themselves, stand 10 toes down, right? They just haven't. And so if you're in a relationship with that person, guess what? You guys got to cultivate that. You got to be strong for that person and help them. And, people like to argue, oh, you should get therapy, counseling. You shouldn't come into a relationship with baggage. All of that has its place, if indeed that is the case. But, people do have to understand that even if you come into a situation with no baggage, you're going to have adversity waiting for you. And depending on how you deal with that, that will be what you carry with you if things don't work out into the next relationship. Like we can never run away from baggage. We can never run away from things like that. We just have to have the tool, the skill, with how to deal with it and how to not allow ourselves to be held down. And these are things that people, just don't talk about, in relationships. Do you fall under pressure when it comes to dealing with same sex, opposite sex in certain situations? Or you have to really be thorough when you want to get into a relationship. No question is a stupid question. And it's because, like I said earlier, when we talk about things being prevalent in society, right? What's popular, what's happening right now, a lot of pragmatism goes on in society, especially among young people. What's popular, what's hot, what's trending, relationship goals and all this stuff. And none of them, if not all of them, don't possess the basic skill sets to maintain a relationship, a healthy relationship. And so now we have celebrities, we have everybody that's creating these unrealistic expectations for their partner. And most, and I can't say most, because women talk amongst themselves about what they want in a man, but women also talk about what they want to see other women having, because this is a true thing. Women do surround themselves with other women, that quote unquote, got what they got, you know, but can't get their hands on what they got. Women love to be around, that whole vibe of, like, I'm living it, I'm good, no, can't nobody tell me nothing, I got my own. They love to celebrate with a group of girls, and unfortunately, you do got the women that, they will use a group of girls who are not, thriving like they are, so that they can stick out in the crowd, which is unfortunate. And sometimes guys do that too, right? But women love to be that boss, and that's the thing now. They want to be that boss, but they gonna do everything in their power to make sure that you can't touch what they have. So they'll show it off, you know. And it's so funny because women these days don't even know that they're turning into the very thing that their mother, their grandmother, and their great grandmother have been cursing for ages and ages. And it's you're turning yourself into a man. It's I don't care how people want to spin it, but these days it's becoming so tragic that a lot of women don't know they're turning themselves into the very thing that they claim, it's not stepping up to the plate, and then expect an actual man, a male who's a man, to want to say, "Hey, I want to make you my confidant." Like, I'm sorry, there's an old Caribbean saying, two bulls can't rule the same pen, you know? And here's the sad part, and I'm gonna keep it real. People need to grow up, you know, and like, let's just lay it out. Not everybody is walking the line of a faith-based lifestyle, meaning that, you might be Christian or you identify with another faith. Not everybody's walking that lifestyle. So, it's a no holds bar. Whatever set of rules, regulations, whatever ideology, if you a hedonist, if you a, whatever, and whatever you decide that you're gonna subscribe to for your relationship, um, that's you. Those are your choices. But some people just need to be clear about that. And once again, in social media, you have people that's talking about it. Oh, I keep it real on the first date, or I tell people this what you're gonna get. You make a choice to take it or not. You have some people that do that, but even within that, some people are still not being clear. Like, I'll target Gen Z and the millennials. I'm poking at them. Um, a lot of them want to be in the financial sector. They wanna be young and rich. They wanna be a boss. They want to build wealth. They want their counterpart, their confidant, their partner, their girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, their fiance, to complement that, and be hustling hard like them. And they got all these expectations, And, some of them, they don't even know they're living a fantasy. Some people just want to screw their business partner. Like, let's just keep it real. Like, you don't want a relationship. You think you do, you don't. You don't want a real relationship, and you definitely don't want a real marriage. You want to have that thrill of, man, I'm screwing the person I'm getting money with. Like, or whatever the case may be. Because let me tell you something. If you are a person that's in a relationship, right, and that person that you're in a relationship with, you also want them to become your business partner, that's not no 1-2 buckle my shoe. Like, that takes a lot of dignity, integrity. You have to be two people that are very, very, very in control of your emotions. Because remember, this person that you're calling your business partner now, you have intimacy with them if you claim that you're in a relationship with them. And we all know, married or not, intimacy, when you're experiencing that with somebody, yes, there are, there's the stress relief, there's the benefits that come with that. But also, based on how engulfed you guys are with each other, it can become a distraction. You can start ignoring red flags. I met a millionaire. True story. I was having lunch. My wife and I went to this local cafe spot back in I believe it was the end of 2022 coming into 2023. Yeah, it was the end of 2022 coming into 2023. My wife and I were at this local cafe spot, and my wife was talking to this gentleman. And long story short, we found out this guy's a millionaire. He was into real estate, and great guy, great conversation. Average Joe, you wouldn't think he's a millionaire. And long story short, we got to talking, and he was telling me, he's like, listen, he's like, man, I had to fire my wife. I said, excuse me? He said, yeah, when we decided that we were going to do business together, he was like, before we went full time into real estate, we had a business where I owned a shop, and she was, being rude to me every single day. She was yelling at me, she was complaining, and she took it too far. She started doing it in front of the customers, and one day she embarrassed me in front of my customers. And for 2 weeks, we didn't make any money because people stopped coming to the shop. And he's like, one morning, I just told her, I said, yo, go back home. You're fired. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, I learned a valuable lesson. He's like, if your partner does not have the capacity to separate, distinguish, and control their emotions, and know not to be familiar in certain settings in order for you guys to build something, that you guys should not go into business together. And so a lot of these Gen Z and millennials, they're getting into these relationships, and it's this whole, their partner might be making money, they're making money, and they just assume that if they do business together, that they're just gonna make it. And not every couple is successful in that way. Not every couple is successful. You have men that embarrass their woman. You have women that embarrass their men. Things go unchecked. Integrity and dignity gets exposed, and you realize that, yeah, this was not probably a smart idea. You do have a lot of success stories, but you also have some failed stories. And these are the things that we need to understand in this whole relationship. How we're going about relationships in 2024. And we're halfway through 2024. Only God knows what things are going to be like in 2025. We got the economic shift taking place. I've been talking about this in my last few episodes. A lot of industries are being swept by AI. A lot of jobs, are transitioning where it won't be in person anymore. People will have to be doing those jobs, work from home. The school system, everything is changing. Everything is changing. And when everything changes, the dynamics of relationships change, right? So if you go from seeing a person 24/7 to now you see them probably once a month and the rest of the time you're talking online, the dynamic of that relationship changes. If you two were making money and you both were at in-person jobs, now you got to find a way how to make money online, right? Everything changes. And so I just believe that in today's society, a lot of people who are in relationships and marriages, and I'm not harping on the fact that we're talking about them going into business, but I'm harping on the fact that when seasons change, when tests come, if you guys did not take the time to evaluate and to cultivate, right, and to germinate, in your relationship, things are going to happen. And you guys are going to blame everybody except yourselves, which is what we see time and time again. And it's so unfortunate, man. It's so unfortunate. I've talked about it in previous episodes, especially in the financial sector, about how being a financial provider is a losing game. And I was more preaching it, on behalf of the men and not so much the women, because everybody know that's a big thing, you know. Um, but and as I grow in my faith, I'm always challenging things, and I'm gonna be bold and say this. For those people who you've read the Bible and the story of Adam and Eve, and you hear about once Adam and Eve sinned, the curses on their life, right? Being a provider is a byproduct of sin. People always, oh my God, I can't tell you how many times people love to preach about how Adam had a job. I laugh at it all the time, but I'm not a person that argues, things like that. I find it hard to believe that Adam being one with God, God would give him a job. You know, a job would mean, that this is something that you get paid for, and you get paid for something because you don't have, right? But they didn't lack anything, so it wasn't a job because they didn't lack anything. He wasn't going to God because he lacked something. You go get a job because you lack money, and you lack the ability to create your own resources. So you start off with a job, right? So Adam and Eve didn't lack anything, and Eve came from Adam. So when she was brought into existence, she didn't lack anything because she already came from a place of she came from someone who was connected to all resources. You get what I'm saying? So, that's just a quick side note. So, when we look at that, I firmly believe that we are providers because of sin. We brought ourselves to a point where we preferred the deception over the person who is all truth. And so our curses by the sweat of our brow we shall eat. So, like I said, this is not a male or female thing. This is a everybody thing. If you're in a position where you have to financially provide for you and your spouse, your kids, your parents, whoever, it's a losing game. Uh, Number one, because you will never have enough to leave everything that is needed, right? the people who you love are always going to want more and always going to need more. Another thing too, there are people out there who are way better providers than you. First of all, you can't out provide God. That's number one. Number two, let's. I don't even have to go far. Your government. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Even if you have the worst of the worst government, the simple fact that they are the government, they can out provide you. Why? Simply because they have stations, they have outlets, they have, networks that just beat out your resources that you have in your hand where you stand. That's number one, right? Of course, the rich and the wealthy, they have more resources than you have, right? If you live in a neighborhood and, everybody is a blue collar family, and a white collar family moves in, and I'm talking about like, they have the means to do everything, travel, everybody's insured, expensive vacations, they're the ones that sponsor all the things in the community because they can afford it, right? And there'll definitely be somebody that if you had an idea, a business, a project, you can go to them and be funded and yada yada yada. And on planet Earth, there's a lot of them. So there are people that can out provide you. So this is where I tell people, and I talk about this. I talk about it in my episodes about becoming an inheritor. Not a provider, but seeking to be a person that is an inheritor. Right? You have to understand that it's better to inherit something because you're getting the source, you're getting what's owed to you, and you're getting what you need in order to create for yourself and your loved ones, right? So if you go after being a provider, I'm telling you, you always going to come up short. You only going to accumulate enough for small time. But if you get the source, which is your God-given inheritance, you have everything you need to build longevity. So we have to understand that we can't be celebrating being a provider. Men, stop celebrating it, because it will come a season where you're going to come up short. And that season is a test, we know the book of Job, that season of his life where he lost everything, it exposed his wife, people, when you grow up in church, man, you hear thousands of sermons, or versions of a teaching, from a story in the Bible. But, I look at it this way, that experience that happened to Job exposed his wife. It showed, and let me tell you something, men, or just anybody listening, when something happens to you and you're the person that everybody looks to for financially, resources, strength, security, protection, when stuff hit the fan, right? What you do in the first 24 to 48 hours is going to set the playing field for you to witness everybody's true view of you, right? All hearts and minds get exposed, right? When tragedy strikes somebody. And so this is how people figure out, like, dang, man, I've been around this person 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And when everything goes bad, now I find out who I'm dealing with. Yeah, happens every single day. We all know this. But when it comes to relationships, you don't hear about this a lot. You hear about it later after a person has been through so much and now they find themselves back to a point of being successful again. But this stuff happens every single day. And like I say, it happens to women and it happens to men. So going down the road of being a financial provider, I'm telling you, it's a losing game. So in relationships, we have to really, really, really stop these very dangerous, we have to stop these very dangerous um, steps of saying that, whoever I decide that I'm going to be with, this is the rubric I have for them, because even if they have everything, there will come a season where they will be tested. And guess what? Sometimes that test is not even for them as much as it is for you to show how much you can tolerate. And this is why a lot of relationships continue to be unsuccessful, and a lot of women are going to be single, because sometimes being with a man and watching him experience failure, sometimes it happens to show you say you ride or die, you say you this, you say you that, and the heat get cut on, and you find out you're not built like that. And guess what? Just because you got exposed doesn't mean that you and your partner can't cultivate new behaviors, new habits, a new heart, a new mind, a new will, a new determination, so that you guys can really turn out and be successful in all the atmospheres of success, wealth, and health. But some people, they still on that Drake from 2010, that YOLO. They still on that YOLO. So it's crazy. It's been over a decade since that was popular, right? But they believe that, man, I don't got time. If homeboy mess up, if homegirl mess up, I'm done. I got one life to live. I'm not gonna waste it on other people's mistakes and lack of ability. But when the tables turn, I'm pretty sure you would have want somebody to be in your corner. But yeah, man, there's so much more I can get in on this. I'm just, laying the foundation. But I really want to hear you guys' thoughts on relationships in 2024. My Gen Z listeners, my millennials, if anybody tuning in your faith base, if anybody's non-religious, I want to hear your perspective on relationships. Our relationships, always and to forever be about love, especially if it's a romantic relationship, or because where the world is turning, should couples really focus more and buckle down on the financial aspect, and even pick and choose their partners based on the need to want to be financially financially literate, financially able, and financially stable. Like, what stance are you taking? This is just laying the foundation. Definitely going to be a part 2, part 3, maybe a part 4 to this, but I want to hear you guys. Definitely, please make sure that you join my Discord. The link is in the description with all the other links to my social media platforms and my YouTube channels. So you guys definitely tell a friend to tell a friend. And, I really appreciate everybody rocking with me on this journey. I'm trying to boost my subscribers by the end of the year. And I'm excited where Honor Kings and Sons TV podcast is going. So until next time, this is Darian Jones of Honor Kings and Sons TV podcast. Follow me on all social media platforms. Can't wait to hear from you in the Discord. Can't wait to hear from you with the comments. And let's keep this thing going. Until next time, be easy.